welcome back to another episode of The Black Circle. I am so excited today to have James joining me, James Mercer.
Thank you.
Who is the founder of Tayp, and we're going to get into Tayp and what it's all about and the creation of it. But how are you today, James? How's everything going?
I'm good. Been a very busy start to the year. Crazy year last year, so this year I'm expecting it to be even more crazy, which I guess is a good thing in some ways. So, yeah.
It's definitely a good thing. And just so, what's some of the things that are coming up that we can expect? What's happening for you?
So what's happening for me in general, I would say I've got a lot of other projects going on, but there's nothing I can really reveal yet until it starts to come to fruition. But the number one thing I'll say is the pivot with Tayp. That pivot is going to be quite a big one. It's quite a significant one. We're going to flip it backwards. Instead of it being something that's going to monetize later on, we're going to monetize earlier on.
Yes, and I know we had a conversation about this a little earlier, and we are definitely going to get into it. But what I kind of like to do is, for the audience, is kind of dig into you, your story, and just basically paint the picture and the journey of kind of what brought you to where you are today. So yeah, let's get into it. So tell me, like, where did the story begin for James?
Story begins in Croydon, about over 30 years ago. I don't go into too much details, but a long time ago. So I grew up in Croydon, went to school all over South London in terms of primary, went to secondary school in Croydon again, and whilst I was in secondary school, I went to school for a year in Ghana as well, to London, of course, to work. I studied sociology, so afterwards I didn't know what to do with a sociology degree. So I did a few modules where we were studying about public relations. So I knew I wanted to get into that marketing in general. I happened to get into public relations as soon as I got back to London, through a lot of creative ways of getting my way into the industry. And I've been working in public relations companies, marketing companies, advertising companies, just all around the marketing spectrum for coming on around 13 years now, maybe more. And I've been working in social media within those companies in general, which got me to the idea of Tayp in the first place. So I've had the pleasure of working on some of the largest brands in the world, for some of the largest agencies in the world as well, some of the most prestigious agencies as well. So it's allowed me to have a decent network and build a decent career, should I say.
So I come from an agency background as well. I've worked in kind of like advertising agency, media agencies for, I would say, about 9 years now. And I know the environment. Yeah. I know how it is. And so my question to you would be, how did you navigate these spaces as a Black person? Do you think there are any kind of disparities or anything that's kind of that could hold you back?
So what I would say is, coming into the industry at the start, from the beginning, it's very different to how it is now. I think they're probably a bit more used to having Black people around, having people of colour, different types of people in agencies at this moment in time. But it's not at a senior level, shall I say? It's very much at a junior level. So I remember coming in, if this argument was made, the first argument would be like, "Oh, let's get more interns in." But I don't. There are a lot of people that have been in there for a long time, like yourself and myself. So it's not, it's got to the point whereby, it's a bit different now, So I think I wouldn't necessarily say, I don't want to blow our trumpet too much, but we've probably made quite a difference.
Right. In what sense?
So I'll say at the start, it was more of a, what's the word? Like code switching.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're all too familiar with the code switching.
At the start. So I think as time's gone on, code switching isn't as necessary. So now it's more of a value if you're able to be your authentic self and show your agency how to communicate with the youth or a lot of people that do have the same background as yourself. So as that's been more understanding, or that's been more understood in agencies, I think agencies have started to change their approach. But there's still a lot of work to do, of course, but I think things have changed. Things have definitely changed.
Yeah, agreed. If I cast my mind back, when I entered, it was 2015, and now we're here in 2024. And yeah, there certainly is more people in these spaces that look like you and I. But I think, again, as you touched on, at kind of C-suite, executive suite, it's not existing. And I think there really is a bit of a barrier. And the question is to why is that still there? And so for somebody like you who's creating your own thing, I think that's super important to create these spaces.
It's true. The thing is, like, I feel like it comes down to the question of whether people have to create their own thing,
right,
or whether people can climb up within the systems that are already there. I feel like when that glass barrier hits, people do think, I just need to create my own thing.
Right.
And I support that. Reason being because it's like the only way to like actually authentically create the kind of campaigns that you really do want to create and that the clients actually do want. And it helps out with people that are in the system that's already created, because they have to now follow those people that have created their own thing and make campaigns that are similar to what those people have created.
Right.
And from when they're following that, it will make things easier for Black people to be able to work in agencies and create the kind of content that they always dreamed of creating in the first place.
More authentically.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so, as I'm saying about, you creating your own thing, I think it's really important because I did a little bit of research and I know that some of your team are operating in Ghana, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
So maybe let's talk a little bit about your challenges there and how you've incorporated that and working from here.
Yeah. So the work ethic in Ghana, just in general terms, is how people work, and the culture, the work culture, the work culture is very different to the work culture here. Like, naturally, I mean, it's a different country, of course, isn't it? So for me, I've had to get used to that and learn it. As much as I could say, okay, going to school there, or my parents, or blah blah blah, it doesn't necessarily mean that I know like how it's like, or
lived it.
So I had to do the trial by fire. That makes sense. So I've been through a lot of stuff. I've got to understand a lot of the red flags. I've got to understand a lot of the green flags. So I've been able to navigate to the point now. We're working with a very good team in Ghana at this moment in time that know exactly how to do it, and they work really hard. And I would say I'm really happy and hopeful as to what is going to happen. What's coming around the corner.
Amazing.
Based on that, yeah.
Yes, amazing.
Definitely.
I love that. And then, when we're speaking about, the spaces and the agency spaces over here, but equally, what are some of the, if there are any issues that you've experienced, as an entrepreneur, as a Black entrepreneur, navigating the spaces that you have?
Loads. First of all, Black entrepreneurs, commonly get the least funding. So that's something that's just known. So that restricts growth, in terms of it being as fast as you would want it to be as your counterparts, your white counterparts, should I say. However, it's not impossible. You can get funding, you can bootstrap it, you can make it happen yourself. So it's just a lot of, things that are potential hurdles that you have to kind of work your way around to be able to overcome. I already have the belief that, okay, things may be harder, things may be difficult, but I've only got two options. I either work hard and get through it, or I just be sad.
Exactly.
And I'll just choose the working hard. It doesn't matter if I'm jaded at the end.
Mm-hmm.
It's a better option than just not doing anything.
And I think that pulls in the conversation of motivation, right? And I think for a lot of startups, or if you're a startup, or if you're well in transition of your entrepreneurial journey, motivation is really key. And so what are the things that keeps you motivated, and how do you stop yourself from the burnout?
I burn out all the time. First of all, I say that I burn out all the time. I know when I'm about to burn out. There's some times where I know I'm about to burn out and I'll just take a break. Like that's the best. If I take a break before I'm about to burn out, I can get back into it, get into the swing of things. Sometimes there's just too much going on. Yeah. So I know that, okay, I'm just going to have to finish this and then burn out.
Right. Okay, so you're like, I'm just going to walk through fire and then we'll deal with it afterwards.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you're at that point, you're like, okay, I'm really struggling here and this is the burnout, it's coming up. What tools do you have where you replenish yourself and you can fill yourself back up? I have to say, though, it's different tools. So some people will say a holiday, and nice holidays to get away. Me, I like to engage in escapism. Mm-hmm. So escapism for me is just being in my own space. Okay.
And probably binging a box set or something like that, like just going into something that's just not my life. Just getting away from life. Then when I get back into life, like I just feel a bit different. Or even like escapism could be a book, or just something, just to get lost in something and come back into the world afterwards.
You sound very like introvert. Is your energy more introvert than extrovert? Do you need to recharge, be alone, or do you need to be? Yeah, exactly.
I come across as an extrovert,
right?
But I'm actually an introvert.
I'm very similar with that. So that's why I picked up on it. I was like, I just need to just leave me alone. Yeah. And then I can give more when I've kind of like filled up by myself. So no, I hear you on that. I hear you on that. Yeah.
That's exactly how it is.
Yeah. And so, okay, so we're talking about burnout a lot, but let's go back to the motivation. Yeah. What are some of the things in life, whether it's personal, whether it's, I don't know if you have children, but what are some of the things that keep you going? Family?
Yeah, definitely family. Definitely, I would say like just my future, what I want to leave behind. Mm-hmm. If I want to make the world a better place after me, I don't necessarily want to just like, this sounds a bit weird, but I don't want to live life and be forgotten. It's just strange.
Right.
So I wanna leave my mark. I want to show that I was here. I want to put graffiti on this world, however someone wants to describe it. But that is partially my motivation. But the other motivation is just creating something that is actually useful, that people actually use. Like I'm of the belief that there are so many things in this world that haven't been created yet.
Yeah.
So many. Like there are so many problems to solve. And when people do solve these problems, they can make quite a lot of money out of it. But I just feel like there's just so many spaces. There's so many gaps. And I just want to just get in fill as many of them as I can.
Fill the spaces with your own creativity.
Yeah.
Yeah, with Tayp. So let's jump into it. And Tayp, where do we begin with it?
Tayp, yeah. So Tayp actually came to me as an idea like ages ago whilst I was working in social media. Mm-hmm. And part of it is because I saw like social media is a cruel place.
Yes.
So like I've just seen people like working. I've seen people getting absolutely destroyed. It's absolutely destroyed.
Cancelled and
yep. Maybe it's just mentioned cancelled. Just if someone says something stupid on a comment, the comments that come afterwards, I've just seen people get absolutely rinsed.
Yep.
And some people can take it, some people can't. Sometimes them getting rinsed is funny. Sometimes they get rinsed is not funny. They might say something.
It's
really
brutal.
hard.
Yeah.
It's absolutely brutal. So through that, I thought, how can I make the social media platform that's just a bit more authentic? And that's why when the idea came to me to make a social media platform about using the voice, it just hit. It just hit. So I feel like you kind of get, even like us speaking now, you can hear our intonation, you can hear what we think, you can hear like how we're trying to come across. It's just a lot better. And then I know that we're in an age whereby, our attention spans are not what they used to be, if I'm going to be honest.
Yeah.
My attention span is quite small as well. So therefore, I just thought, okay, 90 seconds, we've done research what time it is, but 90 seconds is a good time for someone just to get their point across And then it's also, you know, it's not too long where you're looking at it and saying, okay, this is a podcast now. All right, I don't want to listen to this all the time.
Just tune out.
Talking, just tune out. So that's the cutoff point. So Tayp, initially the idea is a social media platform based off voice notes that have 90 seconds. However, as I mentioned earlier, creating a social media platform in this day and age, it requires a lot of money. Not only requires a lot of money, it doesn't make profit. It doesn't make money for at least like a year or so, you know, because you're trying to build up your audience, and nobody wants to be on a platform that's just spamming them with adverts everywhere, and like from early. So it's quite difficult. So that's where I start to think, you know, I can't necessarily expect people to just fund something that's not making any money for a long period of time, especially in this day and age,
right,
whereby, you know, there's cost of living crisis, this, that, is here, every day, there, everywhere. You know, people do have money to do it, don't get me wrong, that could happen, you know, it can, but I just much prefer this pivot that we've made at this moment in time, because it just makes a whole load of sense. So I'm going to go backwards instead. So one of the ideas of Tayp, the monetization of Tayp, was that there will be sponsored topics. So say, for example, the topic section in Tayp itself is the explore section, whereby people can go on there to see what people are talking about. So, for example, if people are talking about the Black Circle podcast, it will be up there, and people can get involved and have conversations and say, oh, I really like what that person said. That was really cool. And after that, it will just be a whole thread of people just talking about, you know, that episode, that topic in general. Then the sponsored topics will be topics that will go on top. So it could be, for example, a car company, or let's say a company that makes sandwiches or something like that. Or no, let me get something better. So a company that makes cheese,
right?
Yeah? And they want people to review their cheese, so they're able to like target people that they know would be buying that cheese, and then they'll be able to just say, like I really liked it, or I didn't really like it, or something like that. But in flipping it, we decided, instead of us going straight for those sponsored topics, we're just going to create a platform that's going to go directly to the business owner, a B2B platform, and we'll ask that cheese company to use their CRM to give them voice notes. Their CRM will use their customer base that they already have, their database, to give them voice notes that is going to give them feedback on that product that they've released.
Right.
Because they already have that customer base already. They already have that database. So it will be a widget that they can put either on their website. They can put it on a specific website that's for answering those questions. They can give them an incentive to answer those questions. And then the fact that it's voice notes means it's just a lot easier for them to provide that feedback. And at the same time, it is qualitative feedback too. Instead of them having to type it and think, you know, this is long to type, they could just go ahead and just speak and just say it
very easily. So in simpler terms, is it more like a more intelligent kind of feedback is basically what you're creating here? Yeah.
More of intelligent feedback tool. There'll be a lot more to it in the future, don't get me wrong. But this is how begin in general. That's the phase 1 of it. The phase 2 of it is we hope to add a voice note feed for these companies as well. So the voice note feed is something that will be another widget, will be like a comment section that you can put on your website. And then you'll have people that just leave their comments on there, and people will be able to go on there and look at those comments. So when I'm saying it doesn't necessarily have to be just the cheese company that's doing it. It could be a publishing company. It could be like a newspaper that's getting feedback on stories, or a radio station getting feedback
in real time.
Yeah, real time.
Right. Okay.
And they can take those voice notes and put it on their show.
That's so interesting. Yeah. I can just imagine, and by no means do I read or anything with the Daily Mail, but could you imagine some of the conversations that could be happening? So I guess it could be used for good or for evil.
I guess so, but at the same time, so this is what they can do. So
right.
If it's one of these blogs or whatever, they could get these voice notes that they're receiving, and then we'll be able to create a template that they can post it directly to their social media platforms.
Mm-hmm.
So then after people be able to see what other people have to say about the topics that they're posting about, then because people want to get involved in that conversation and will respond to what that person just said about that topic in that conversation, it's going to drive people to their website, to their own channel.
Right.
Driving more traffic to their own channel, which in turn is going to increase their ad revenue that they receive from their own channel.
Got you. Okay.
So the hits that they're receiving.
Yeah.
So it's benefiting them in many, many ways. So let's see where it goes.
And so there is obviously a bigger conversation that's happening now around AI.
Yeah.
And the misuse of it and, you know, I guess the benefits of it. What would be your concerns with a platform like Tayp and the AI conversation?
So AI would be able to help in terms of filtering bad language. Mm-hmm. It'll be able to help in terms of like now artificial intelligence can provide captions, you know, for the actual product. And captions is what will be used for search engine optimization. So when they're searching for what people are saying, they can type in a certain word and they can find how many people said that in the voice note. AI could also be used to just, I think in this case, AI is actually quite a positive. It can do, there's so many things that it can add to it. Mm-hmm. So when the algorithm actually comes, when it gets to the point whereby we pivot it back again to making it a social media app, and that's if we do that, saying that as well.
Okay, why isn't if?
Because we're just going to follow what people, see what people feel, see what the market says, how the market responds to this. But at that point, I feel AI is best used to create the algorithms that people actually want to see. Mm-hmm. So instead of I would say right now, the best algorithm you can actually find for me personally would be on TikTok.
Okay.
I wouldn't say that Instagram or all the other ones have as good as an algorithm. They're still quite a distance away from having an algorithm as good as TikTok. What's
the main differences with like the TikTok algorithm and the Instagram algorithm?
So the TikTok algorithm, if you go on TikTok right now, mm-hmm. I don't think you'll be on it for like 5 minutes. I think you'll be in it for a pretty long time.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I call it the TikTok hole.
Yeah.
Where if I know I'm going to open TikTok, I know I'm going to be at least minimum of half an hour and you're just scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. You're so right. Whereas opposed to Instagram, it's like 10 minutes, I'm back off of it.
Yeah.
So what is the pull there? What's the...
I think partly is because the content on TikTok as well is quite authentic. Mm-hmm. So you feel like you're actually engaging with the person. Like, even if it's the same thing posted on Instagram, it just feels a lot more like the person's on the stage. Whereas a TikTok, you feel like the person's in your room. Do you get what I mean? It's a bit more of it's a lot different. So I feel like there's that, first of all, that bit, there's that part of it. And the other part of it is just their technology and what they've done in terms of like being able to actually know what you like and be able to pick up on what content you've been looking at, how long you've been looking at it, and what you do and what you respond to. They're better at that. I say Instagram's catching up, but they're still quite a way away. They'll still serve you with images and stuff like that you might like, and a lot of times you might see an image, you might see something, a headline, and you're just thinking, you know, I can't be bothered. It's just, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just has a completely different feel to it. And also Instagram is still quite polished, so. And it's always going to be that way. It's always going to be polished. So it being that polished, the barrier of entry for creating content on Instagram is quite high. Mm-hmm. So therefore, people are going to people are not going to post every day on Instagram. They're going to post quite infrequently because they want to make sure that everything they do post is of a certain level.
Yeah.
Whereas TikTok, people don't necessarily care. Someone might be posting a get ready with me video and they're in their bathroom.
Yeah.
And you're seeing them just going...
It's less filtered, it feels a little bit more authentic, it feels younger, a bit more exciting than Instagram. Instagram at the moment is just so kind of ad heavy and everything's targeted at you to buy, and so TikTok definitely has a different feel to it. Is Facebook and Twitter still a part of the conversation? I love Twitter, by the way. That's my favourite social media app.
Twitter? What's Twitter? You're talking about X? No, I'm joking.
Oh my goodness, X. It's always going to forever be Twitter for me.
It's Twitter for me as well. It's Twitter for me as well. But no, the reason why I say that is because like Twitter, I feel like it has a different feel to it now. It's called X and that sort of stuff. And the reason why people will still always be using Twitter is because it's the number one place to talk about trending topics.
Right.
So also at the same time, if you think about it, the power of this platform is, so say like last year or a few years ago, I don't know, when there's people in the parliament that resigning their jobs and they're all doing it on Twitter.
Yes.
That's a very powerful platform.
Yeah.
Very powerful platform. And there isn't another platform that people do that on.
I know Instagram had a shot at doing threads and it doesn't seem to quite have taken off.
Yeah.
And I feel like with Instagram, they sometimes get a bit greedy. Let's do something similar to Snapchat. Let's do something similar to Reels and stories and threads. And it's like...
Mm-hmm. The Meta is just like they would try to emulate it. No, they'll try to take it over themselves, buy it themselves. They can't buy it. They'll just emulate it, which is just it's a very aggressive business tactic, should I say. I know they've been doing depositions lately of Mark Zuckerberg and and the owner of TikTok as well, and they've been quite aggressive. They've been quite brutal, should I say. I saw Mark Zuckerberg had to apologize to people's parents and stuff for their usage of the social media app and how the social media app has affected them. And I just thought that was quite brutal. I looked at it and I saw Mark Zuckerberg apologizing, and I don't know if this is controversial for me to say, but I actually felt quite sorry for him.
Oh, I mean, if we are yet to find out what the long-term implications are for social media use, right? And so I don't have any children, but I think I would be very wary about what they're consuming. And I know that's a huge topic of conversation for parents. And so I think maybe he's getting ahead of the curve because maybe he knows. I don't know.
The thing is, what you're saying is a fact. Social media usage has changed the world. And a lot of it is in a negative way. Maybe most of it is in a negative way. However, it's not really going anywhere.
No.
It's not going anywhere. So it's more of a thing of we need to get ahead of social media rather than stop it altogether. Because if you think about it, there are so many stories, there are so many things, there are so many stuff that we would never know unless people shared it on social media. And this is directly from the source. Before, if we want to get any information, it has to go through some filters or something else before we actually find out the information.
Through the main press, through main media, news publications.
So, not saying the main news publications don't have power today, they still do. However, social media, makes it have to be more authentic. And now it's got to the point whereby people are like saying, we need to fact check fake news and all this sort of stuff there. In the past, if there was fake news, you should never know.
You would never know. It would just be all very...
Yeah, we'll go straight through and everyone will just see it as real news.
But, I mean, you say that, but I think there still needs to be a level of media training for people. And I don't know if that happens in the schools. I don't know where that happens, but a lot of people can't look at something and realise, even if it's a skit, some people are really invested, like, oh my God, I can't believe this happened. But actually, it's a skit. It didn't even happen.
Yes.
And it's such... And you said earlier, it's being used not for the best purposes, but on the other side, I think it's a double-edged sword. I think on the other side of that, it's so much... We're in this era of knowledge and information, and I think it's opened up so much for us to kind of have autonomy over the content that we're putting out.
Yeah.
Also the content that we're digesting. But on the flip side of that, I think it can also create echo chambers. So we're never really
100%.
Right. We're never really getting the other side of
100%. That's where Facebook went wrong.
Right.
Because Facebook was like the number one place for echo chambers when it first started. So when it came to people only heard their own voice, you would never think that people were thinking differently from you.
Right.
So I think Twitter kind of went against that, but it went against it in such an aggressive way to the point whereby people are just shouting at each other and they're just blocking each other. No one's really listening to each other. So no one's really captured that thing. I would say my plans for Tayp definitely captures that as to what we're going to do, like how to get people to actually listen to people that they disagree with and to actually go back and forth and actually listen to what they're actually saying. However, I feel in social in general, there is quite a way for the other social media platforms to be able to handle that and to be able to deal with it because of the culture of the platforms and how they are already. And I don't think they can just all of a sudden overnight just change the culture of those platforms and make people start listening to each other and actually start engaging and talking and having a conversation. One thing I've actually noticed, which is just giving a game away a bit, you know, a lot of these social media platforms and these social media channels, they just post provocative content.
Right.
It may not
Clickbait,
necessarily,
right?
clickbait. Yeah. It may not necessarily mean that they actually care about that. They post provocative content.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'll just get people in the comments talking and saying things. And then afterwards, you'll see there'll be one or two comments that are made that are quite extreme in order to get a reaction.
Yeah.
You'll click on that profile and you'll see the profile literally has like no followers, no things. It's just a fake profile. I believe some of these profiles are actually owned by whoever created the page.
So are we talking bots here or
Yeah, I guess
right,
so.
yeah.
But at the same time, if you get a conversation going on your page, you know what I mean? And your comment page, people can start, you know.
Of course, because when you monetize, now that the kind of the blue ticks on Twitter and things like that, they can monetize from that. So obviously we're almost in this era where outrage sells. Yes. No, we are in the era. We're not almost in it. We're definitely in that, you know, so
we've been in that era for a while now.
we definitely have. And so it's exhausting.
We've got a president out of that.
Oh my, we did. We might have a president couple. Well, not we, but the world, America. I think that's their problem. But again, you know, we see that this is the thing that is selling, and it used to be sex, and now it's fear, and now it's outrage, and I think that's just such a sad state of affairs. But I hope Tayp kind of addresses some of this and changes this.
So with Tayp, like of a voice note, it's not the image,
right?
So you're not looking at the car, you're looking at what's underneath the bonnet. Do you get what I mean?
I like that analogy. Yeah.
You see? So it's like, you know, with the voice, it's like you can create viral content that's coming from your mind wherever you are. So therefore, it kind of alleviates all of that imagery. And
there's a freeness in it, actually.
Yeah.
Do
you know what I mean? So, you know, and as well, I think people have an affinity to people's voices. And being able to capture someone from their voice through your voice is, I think, a lot more of an endearing thing, and there's a lot more of a genuinely endearing thing than your image, your person, or whatever. I just think that it's something that's quite powerful.
Yeah, agreed.
Like, for example, I know a lot of people probably used to listen to Jenny Francis.
Oh yeah,
but
yes.
A lot of people don't know how Jenny Francis looks like.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So people just really like her voice. That's a perfect example.
It's a perfect example, and the voice is so emotive and, like you said, personal. I really like that analogy. I love it. Okay, so also Tayp. How did you come up with the name? Yes.
I would say she named. I was thinking about HMV.
Yeah,
know?
his master's voice. Yeah.
Yeah, and they had like the gramophone as their logo.
Yeah.
No one uses gramophones anymore, you know. Do you know what I mean? So I was thinking about it. No one uses tapes anymore, do they?
Very retro.
Yeah, it's retro, isn't it? So I thought, you know, it's how someone records, you know, it's like, you know, they're taping and recording themselves. So I thought, okay, why not just name it Tayp in that case? I actually got the idea, I was talking to my brother about it. He actually gave me the idea about a tape in general. And then the spelling is just purely for SEO purposes. If you type in Tayp, there's nothing else that's going to come up.
Very smart.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah,
I like that.
Of course. And the slogan is, if you got something good to say, put it on tape. So yeah, it all runs.
I love that, and it's just I don't know how old you are. I'm not gonna. We don't need to. Say, but it's just a nod to this time before social media, and I like how you've tied it in with kind of social media and everything that you're doing. I know it's not going to start off social media now, but how you've all tied it in, it's just it's a nice kind of round circle.
Yeah, thank you. I do hope it does remind people of time before social media, because there was a time before social media whereby, you know, you had to really create your own fun.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, I mean, really create your own fun, and whereby people be in rooms and they're actually like having conversations and chatting instead of just like
scrolling. And I miss that. I really do miss that. What did that look like for you?
Oh, I don't know. It's a thing of like so I would say growing up, I had quite a lot of siblings. I've got loads of cousins, and we just spent a lot of time just like making our fun, making like
playing outside.
Yeah, playing outside.
Yeah,
even if we're not playing outside,
right?
We're so creative that we can make things up inside.
Yes.
That, you know, we could create like, say if we saw tennis on telly, we'll create a tennis court in the house in a small corridor.
And probably out of nothing as well, right?
Just string. And do you know what I mean? Make a tennis racket out of wood, a tennis racket out of something or whatever, and a ball out of a plastic bag or something like that. Like we're just creative. We're just so much more creative than I suppose kids have to be now.
I think there's a different conversation about being creative and between the generations, because the kids today, they're doing some awesome things on TikTok and creating it through that lens, whereas we was very much how would I explain it? We were more physical with our creating, and they're more digital, and I think that's the difference between it. So I don't think it's.
That's true.
I don't want to take anything away from that generation.
That's true. I didn't really think of it that way, to be honest with you. But what I would say is, if like the fun we made when we were younger, the younger generation would probably say, how to have fun when you haven't got anything. You have to make a TikTok video out of it, and you'll be like, oh, that's a really good idea.
Yeah.
But that's part of the reason why a lot of the fun that children have nowadays is probably of a higher quality than what we have when we were younger, because they're able to get this advice to like really like clean up like everything.
Yeah.
Like, for example, I was talking to some of my friends that are girls, and they were mentioning like when they were in school, their makeup was like not good.
Yeah, because they didn't have a tutor to say, this is how you do your makeup.
Yeah.
And
it was very normal.
I think there's something fun in the trial and error of it all and not being perfect. Because on the flip side, again, I keep talking about these double-edged swords. On the flip side of that, there's so much pressure now for kids to have like the best proms and the best this. And it's like, we didn't care. We just rocked up and it still worked out for us, you know. Yeah. I'm a proud millennial, and I kind of had one foot in both camps. So the world before social media and growing up with social media. And so I kind of feel grateful for that. I think it's a different level of stress.
But definitely. But we're faced with a big responsibility.
Right.
That, you know, we're not at the age, I feel like now we're almost at the age where people in our generation are going to have to be like leaders. When I say leaders, I don't mean leaders of companies. I mean,
we're the adults now.
Countries. Yeah, exactly. Like actual like leaders, leaders. And when we're doing that, we're in a position whereby we have to shape the world. And it's not that far away. And how does that look like? And I don't think we know how that looks like at this point in time. There's so much things that have changed. And we're in a completely different paradigm. How we approach everything has to be thought of in a different way. And I think there are people that are thinking about that, but I don't think there's enough people thinking about that. You know, I think we're just barely thinking about how do we get through to tomorrow and deal with tomorrow.
Survival mode. A lot of people in survival mode, especially with the cost of living, the political landscape. There's just so many things. And this is why I go back to like the conversation of burnout and you know, the best ways that we can kind of protect ourselves, especially as Black people, when we have that extra layer on top of us, you know, that conversation.
I would say the conversation you said earlier about Ghana, regarding Ghana, I think people from the diaspora that are going to Ghana, visiting Ghana a lot, like yourself and myself, we are doing it with a thought of thinking quite a few steps ahead and what is going to happen over there and the rest of Africa too.
Absolutely.
However, there are a lot of people in Ghana who probably don't see much hope. And there's probably people in the diaspora here as well, and in America and that sort of stuff, don't see much hope either. So it's the kind of thing is I do encourage people to like investigate what they can do in Africa as well, just to see like, you know, what they can get out of it. And I don't necessarily mean just the diaspora, I just mean anybody, because there's a lot going on there.
It's incredible. I went for the first time last year, and it's people have these really silly misconceptions about Africa in general. And so just to see and I know they still have their problems and their struggles, but just to see such a vibrant landscape, There's a lot of business happening out there. There's a lot of money out there. And so that's really encouraging. But my worry and my concern is when we look at things like Dirty December, people go out there and they bring their like UK mentality. Yeah. And it's like, just have a level of respect for,
of course.
You know.
The thing is, my perspective of that is it's not really going to last. If that makes sense, it's not going to last because they have like their own culture, if that makes sense. And eventually that's going to kick in. And when it kicks in, a lot of people will have a surprise like, whoa, this is what they think about us. Or this is what it is. So, like, things will change. I'll say, like, when there's new governments, when there's new this, when they do that, things will change. Some things will get worse. Some things will get better. Some things will get leveled down to the ground. But the thing is, the difference is in Africa is that, like, not everything is done. Like, everything's done here and in, you know, in other countries and that sort of stuff. There is so many problems that can be solved. And solving those problems, there's a lot of money to be made. And in solving those problems, there'll be a lot of things that will come that will frustrate you, that will just completely make you want to give up. But that's everywhere. If you don't get past those barriers, you're never going to get to that point whereby you are very comfortable from solving that problem. So I think, you know, people just need to take that step and, you know, take that risk and see how it works out for them.
Yeah,
and I know a lot of people that are discouraged, but you know,
you persevered.
Yeah. Well, let's see. I'll be encouraging them. Put it like that.
100%, definitely. And you touched on something earlier where you said you want to write your name in graffiti that you was here, and so that touches on legacy. So what's the legacy for James?
I don't know yet.
You don't know yet,
but let's see. Let's see. I just know that it'll be different.
It'll be different. And just to close out, and I always like to do this with each of my guests, I want to talk about values, and a value for your personal life and a value for your professional life. They can just be one word and just kind of why that carries you through.
Sure. Okay. Values. I say one value for my professional life is tenacity. No matter what happens, you just gotta keep going. I feel like in those moments whereby you want to give up, if you keep going, that's the difference. That's my perception. It's just different because once you're able to stretch yourself, you start to find out what you're really made of. Then you start to think, you know what, I can actually do a lot more than I thought I could do. For my personal life, I would say empathy.
Lovely word.
Yeah. Just to, you know, try to understand people more and take a step back and just think about, you know, what perception that somebody else is coming from when they're saying it to you. I feel like when you understand somebody else's perception or you understand what drives somebody else, it just makes everything make sense as to why they'll make the decisions that they make. It may not necessarily be done with your interest at heart. However, it just makes sense for them doing that. So, you know, it just lets you know that what you're dealing with in general. So if they do something like you're not heartbroken by what someone does or whatever, if that makes sense. So I feel like empathy and just having that perception of others and what their fears and cares are is very important.
Of other people.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, James, thank you so much. Thank you. That's been a really great chat, and I can't wait to see where Tayp goes. And if you want to come back anytime, please do. You're more than welcome. And guys, obviously, please do like and share and subscribe. You can find us on Spotify at The Black Circle Podcast, and you can also find us on Instagram at theblackcirclepodcast.com. And hopefully join us next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.